I've always lived in my brother's shadow. Not because he wanted it that way, but because people naturally gravitated toward him. Jaemin had the kind of confidence that filled every room. Loud laughter, sharp eyes, a presence that couldn't be ignored. He was my older brother, my protector, and whether I liked it or not, the center of my world. And standing on the opposite side of that world was him, Seo-jun. To most people, Seo-jun was the definition of untouchable, captain of the rival basketball team, top student with a razor-sharp tongue, and a smirk that could cut deeper than any blade. But to my brother, he was something else entirely, a sworn enemy. Their rivalry stretched back years, fueled by stolen victories, harsh words, and grudges neither of them could ever let go. It wasn't just about sports anymore. It was personal, which meant, for me, Seo-jun was forbidden. I told myself I hated him too. I told myself his arrogance was disgusting, his confidence nothing more than poison. But no matter how much I repeated those lies, there was something about him I couldn't ignore. His presence pulled at me, a dangerous magnet that made my chest tighten and my thoughts blur whenever his dark eyes landed on me. I buried those feelings deep, of course. What else could I do? Jaemin would never forgive me if he even suspected I thought of Seo-jun as anything more than an enemy. So I stayed quiet, hidden in the background, pretending I felt nothing. Until that night. It started at the after-party for the regional finals. My brother's team had won, barely, after a brutal game that had everyone on their feet. The tension between him and Seo-jun had been obvious from the very first whistle. Fouls that looked intentional. Glares that lingered too long. Every moment was a battle between them, not just on the scoreboard but in pride. The victory should have tasted sweet. Instead, it felt heavy. The party was crowded, music loud enough to shake the walls of the old gym that had been decorated with streamers and lights. I hovered near the edge of the room, holding a soda, trying to blend in. Jaemin was at the center of it all, celebrating with his teammates, his arms slung around friends who cheered his name. That's when I saw him. Seo-jun leaned against the far wall, half in shadow, as if the noise of the party couldn't touch him. His hair was damp from the game, falling carelessly across his forehead, and his eyes were locked on me. My stomach dropped. I looked away too quickly, pretending I hadn't noticed, but my pulse betrayed me. No one else seemed to care that Seo-jun was there, uninvited, as though even the air bent around him. But I could feel him, every second, as if his gaze burned into the side of my face. I should have left then. Slipped out quietly before anything could happen. But I didn't. I stayed, sipping my drink, forcing my hands not to tremble. When I finally left the gym, the night air was a relief, cool and damp with the scent of rain on the way. The streets were quieter than the chaos I'd escaped, shadows stretching long under flickering lamps. I thought I was alone. But footsteps followed. I walked faster, heart hammering, but the steps matched mine, deliberate and steady. I knew who it was before I even turned. Seo-jun. He looked different outside the glow of the party, sharper, darker, as if the night itself clung to him. His smirk was there, of course, the one that always sent my brother into a rage. But his eyes, they weren't mocking. They were hungry. "Why are you following me?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. "Why did you keep looking at me?" he shot back, low and calm. I froze. My denial caught in my throat. He had noticed. Of course he had. "You're imagining things," I muttered, turning away. But he was faster. In 2 strides he closed the distance, his hand braced against the wall beside my head. I stumbled back until the rough brick pressed against my shoulders, trapping me. The world narrowed to the heat of his body so close to mine, the faint scent of sweat and cologne, the way his breath ghosted over my cheek. "Don't lie," he whispered, his voice like a blade wrapped in silk. "I see the way you look at me when your brother isn't watching." My heart stuttered, panic mixing with something I didn't dare name. "This isn't," I began, but the words dissolved when he leaned closer, his lips brushing the shell of my ear. "I'll break you first." The words weren't shouted. They weren't even cruel. They were a promise, whispered like a secret meant only for me. My breath hitched. My body betrayed me, shivering under the weight of his voice. I hated him. I had to hate him. That's what I told myself as I shoved against his chest, forcing space between us. He let me, though his smirk never faded. "You're insane," I snapped, but my voice was unsteady. He tilted his head, studying me with an intensity that made it hard to breathe. "Maybe. But you'll remember this night." Then he stepped back just far enough that I could slip past him. I didn't run, but every step away felt heavy, as though his presence clung to me. Even when I reached home, even when I locked my door and pressed my back against it, the echo of his whisper was still there. "I'll break you first." My hands trembled as I buried my face in them. I wasn't afraid of him. That was the truth I realized, sitting alone in the dark. I wasn't afraid of being broken by him. I was terrified of how much I wanted it. The night Seojun whispered those words should have faded into memory, buried under denial and self-control. That's what I told myself every morning when I woke up, every night before I closed my eyes. But it didn't fade. It lingered. His voice, his eyes, the heat of his body so close to mine. It clung to me like a shadow I couldn't shake. And then, he started to make sure I couldn't forget. The first time was at school. I was standing by my locker, scrolling through my phone, trying not to think about him, when suddenly a hand brushed against mine. Not accidental. Deliberate. I jerked my head up, and there he was, Seojun, leaning casually against the locker beside mine as if he had every right to be there. His lips curled into that maddening smirk. "Morning," he said, his voice low enough that only I could hear. I swallowed hard. "What are you doing here? This isn't even your hallway." He tilted his head, eyes glinting. "Maybe I was curious. Maybe I just wanted to see you flinch." He said it with a lazy shrug, but his gaze never left mine. The crowded hallway bustled around us, but in that moment it felt like there was only him, and me, trapped in his gravity. I slammed my locker shut. "Stay away from me." His chuckle followed me as I walked away, quickening my steps. But even as I turned the corner, I felt the heat of his touch where his fingers had brushed mine. After that, it became a pattern. In the cafeteria, he'd pass behind me, letting his hand graze the back of my chair, close enough to make my breath hitch. During basketball practice, when I came to watch Jaemin, Seojun's eyes would flick up from the court, locking on mine for a second too long, as if he could see right through me. And sometimes, when no one else was watching, he'd lean in just close enough to whisper something reckless. "You looked for me first. Your brother would kill me if he knew. You like the danger, don't you?" Every word was a spark against dry kindling, setting fire to feelings I tried desperately to smother. I told myself I hated him. But the truth was, I hated myself more, for wanting him despite everything. The tension between us only grew. One afternoon, I found myself cornered again, this time in the library. The shelves were quiet, the air thick with the faint scent of old paper and dust. I had been reaching for a book when suddenly his hand shot out, catching it before I could. Our fingers brushed, lingering just long enough to make my heart pound. "Still pretending you don't want this?" he asked softly. I snatched my hand back, glaring up at him. "You're enjoying this, aren't you? Making me want me?" he finished smoothly, leaning closer. I froze, words caught in my throat. His face was inches from mine, his breath warm, his eyes sharp and unrelenting. For a moment, I thought he'd kiss me right there, surrounded by rows of silent books. My chest tightened, my body leaning before my mind screamed no. I shoved the book against his chest, breaking the moment. "You're insane," I muttered, rushing past him. But my legs were weak. My hands trembled. And my lips burned with the phantom of a kiss that hadn't happened. Of course, it didn't take long for my brother to notice. Jaemin wasn't stupid. He saw the way I stiffened when Seojun walked into a room, the way my eyes darted away too quickly. He saw too much. "You've been acting weird," he said one night at dinner, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. "Something going on?" I nearly choked on my food. Weird? "I'm fine." He narrowed his eyes. "Good. Because I'd kill him if he so much as looked at you the wrong way." I forced a laugh, but my stomach twisted. The danger was real. If Jaemin found out, if he even suspected, there would be no forgiveness. The closeness with Seo-jun only grew worse. Or maybe I thought bitterly, it was me who grew weaker. Every encounter blurred the line I swore I wouldn't cross. Every stolen glance, every teasing word, every brush of his hand against mine dragged me deeper into something I couldn't escape. And then came the night I finally broke. It happened after another game, an away match this time. My brother's team had lost, and his temper was like a storm cloud hanging over the bus ride home. I slipped away, needing space, needing air, finding myself outside the gym near the back entrance. And there he was. Seo-jun. Alone, leaning against the wall, his jersey still clinging to his skin with sweat. His eyes found me instantly, as though he'd been waiting. "You shouldn't be here," I whispered, though my feet carried me closer anyway. "Neither should you," he replied, pushing off the wall. "But here we are." The space between us shrank, my pulse quickening with every step he took. I should have left. I should have turned around. But I didn't. When he reached me, his hand came up slowly, deliberately, brushing against my cheek. I froze, every nerve alive under his touch. "This is a bad idea," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Maybe," he said softly. "But you can't deny it anymore." His lips hovered inches from mine, the world holding its breath. My chest ached with the war between loyalty and desire, fear and longing. And then, finally, I gave in. I closed the distance. Our lips crashed together, desperate and heated, all the tension of weeks igniting in a single spark. His hand tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, while mine clutched at his jersey like I was drowning and he was the only thing keeping me alive. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't safe. It was reckless, dangerous, everything I swore I wouldn't let happen. And yet, I couldn't stop. When we finally broke apart, breathless, his forehead rested against mine. "I told you," he murmured, his lips brushing mine again. "You'll remember this." And I knew he was right. Because in that moment, I wasn't thinking about my brother. I wasn't thinking about the consequences. I was thinking only of him. And I had already crossed the line I swore I never would. Guilt. That was the first thing I woke up to every morning after that kiss. It wrapped around me like chains, heavy and suffocating, whispering that I had betrayed the one person who had always stood by me, my brother. And yet, I couldn't stop thinking about Seo-jun. The memory of his lips burned against mine. The heat of his touch haunted me in the quiet moments, when no one else was around to see the way my hands trembled or how my chest ached with something I refused to name. I tried to bury it. I tried to convince myself it was a mistake, a slip in judgment, something I could push away and forget. But every time I saw him, on the court, in the hallways, even in passing glances, my resolve crumbled. Because the truth was cruel and undeniable. I didn't want to forget. It only got worse when he sought me out again. It was late, after practice. The gym lights glowed faintly, casting long shadows across the empty court. I had been waiting for Jaemin, scrolling through my phone on the bleachers, when I heard footsteps echoing behind me. I looked up and my breath caught. Seo-jun stood at the edge of the court, his jersey hanging loose, hair damp with sweat. He looked tired, but his eyes were sharp, focused entirely on me. "You shouldn't be here," I whispered automatically, glancing toward the locker room where Jaemin was still changing. "Neither should you," he countered, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. "But here you are." I stood quickly, my pulse racing. "If my brother sees you talking to me..." "He won't." Seo-jun's voice softened, almost tender. He stepped closer, the distance between us shrinking. "Relax. I don't care about him right now. I care about you." His words hit me harder than I expected. "Don't," I said shakily, backing up a step. "Don't make this worse than it already is. You started this as a game, didn't you? Just to get back at Jaemin. To hurt him." He froze. For a moment, the smirk vanished, replaced by something raw in his expression. "That's what I thought at first," he admitted. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed him, dark, intense, almost vulnerable. "But it's not a game anymore. Not to me." I blinked, stunned. "You think I'd risk all of this? My rivalry with him, my reputation, your hatred, just for fun? No. He stepped closer again, his voice dropping low. I want you. And I don't care what it costs. My heart twisted painfully. Part of me wanted to believe him, to let myself fall into the warmth of those words. But the other part screamed at me, reminding me of Jaemin, of loyalty, of everything I stood to lose. You're going to ruin me, I whispered, almost pleading. Or maybe, Seojun said, brushing his fingers lightly against mine, I'll save you. The door to the locker room slammed open. I flinched back instantly, yanking my hand away. Jaemin's voice rang out, frustrated and sharp. Where the hell is my bag? My chest nearly exploded from panic. If he had come out a few seconds earlier, if he had seen, Seojun's eyes flicked toward my brother's voice, then back to me. His smirk returned, though it was softer now, tinged with something else. Later, he whispered, before slipping away into the shadows, leaving me breathless and shaking. The guilt only deepened after that. Every meal with Jaemin felt like torture. Sitting across from him, hearing him laugh, listening to him rant about Seojun's arrogance, I could barely meet his eyes. My throat locked up whenever he asked if something was wrong. Because how could I tell him the truth? How could I admit that while he was spilling his hatred, I was thinking of the same man's hands on me, his lips against mine? I tried to avoid Seojun. I stopped lingering after practice. I changed my routes at school. But he always found me. In hallways, in empty classrooms, even once in the back row of a movie theater when my brother went to grab snacks. Every time, his presence unraveled me more. Stop running from this, he told me one night, cornering me outside the library. His voice was low, fierce, like a storm barely contained. You feel it too. I know you do. I can't, I whispered. Not when it's him. Not when it's my brother. For once, his smirk was gone. His jaw tightened, his eyes burning. Then choose, he said. Him or me. The words hit like a strike to the chest. I couldn't answer. I didn't know how. It all came crashing down faster than I expected. One evening, Jaemin and I were walking home when Seojun appeared, leaning casually against the wall of a corner store, waiting. My stomach lurched. I tried to keep my face neutral, but Jaemin noticed instantly. His eyes narrowed. Why does he keep looking at you like that? I froze. What? Jaemin stepped forward, fists clenched. Seojun, you got a problem with my brother? My heart stopped. Seojun's smirk widened, but his eyes flicked to me, sharp and knowing. He didn't deny it. He didn't back down. He just tilted his head and said, maybe I do. Jaemin lunged, fury in his movements. I panicked, grabbing his arm before he could swing. Stop. Don't. I shouted, my voice cracking. Both of them froze, Jaemin glaring at me, Seojun watching silently. The air between us burned with tension, one wrong word away from disaster. Jaemin's voice was cold, suspicious. Why are you defending him? My throat locked. I couldn't answer. Because the truth was written all over my face. Jaemin's eyes darkened, realization flickering in them like a spark. No, he said slowly, voice low and dangerous. Don't tell me. Seojun stepped closer then, his hand brushing mine deliberately, possessively, as if daring me to make a choice right there. Jaemin's face twisted in rage. And in that single moment, with both their eyes on me, I realized the truth. There was no hiding anymore. I had to choose. The night everything shattered began with silence. Jaemin didn't speak as we walked home, his fists clenched, his jaw tight. Seojun's taunting words still hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Maybe I do. My chest burned. I wanted to explain, to lie, to say anything that could undo what he might have guessed. But the words refused to form. My tongue felt heavy, my throat dry. When we finally reached home, Jaemin slammed the door behind us, the echo rattling the walls. He turned on me instantly, his eyes blazing. Tell me it's not true. My heart sank. Jaemin. Don't lie to me, he shouted, his voice cracking. You and him? I flinched, guilt slicing through me. I wanted to deny it, But the truth was already written across my face. My silence was enough. Jaemin's expression twisted, hurt, betrayal, fury. Do you have any idea what you've done? That bastard's been trying to destroy me for years, and you, my own brother. His voice faltered, breaking. You gave yourself to him. The words felt like a knife in my chest. I didn't mean for it to happen, I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. I tried to stop it. I tried to fight it. But what? Jaemin snapped. You couldn't resist him? You chose him over me. I shook my head desperately. It's not about choosing. It is. His voice cracked like thunder. It's always about choosing. The following days were hell. Jaemin barely spoke to me. When he did, his words were sharp, cutting deeper than any blade. He watched me constantly, as if waiting for me to slip, to confirm his worst fears. And so, I couldn't stay away from Seo-jun. Every time I saw him, the pull grew stronger. He found me in the quiet corners of the school, in the alley near the gym, even once outside my house, waiting in the dark. His eyes always carried the same question, unspoken but heavy. Do you regret it? And every time, my heart answered the same way, no. Because as dangerous as it was, as wrong as it felt, being with him was the only time I felt alive. The storm finally broke one night after practice. Jaemin had gone back into the locker room to grab something he'd forgotten, leaving me waiting outside. The court was empty, lights dimmed, shadows stretching long across the polished floor. And then Seo-jun appeared. He stepped out from the far side of the gym, his eyes locked on me. My breath hitched, my pulse racing. You're trembling, he said softly, closing the distance between us. Is it fear? Or because you missed me? Don't, I whispered, though my feet refused to move. He's going to be back any second. I don't care. His hand brushed mine, sending a jolt through me. I told you before, it's not a game anymore. I want you. All of you. My chest ached. If he finds out. He already knows, Seo-jun cut in, his voice steady. And he'll never forgive me. But you have to decide, are you his or mine? The weight of his words crushed me. My heart screamed one answer, my mind another. I was caught between blood and desire, loyalty and love. Before I could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed. He froze in the doorway, eyes locking onto the scene before him. Seo-jun standing close, our hands brushing, my face flushed with guilt and longing. For a moment, silence reigned. Then Jaemin's face twisted with rage. You bastard! He roared, storming across the court. Seo-jun didn't move, didn't flinch. He stood tall, his smirk gone, his gaze steady. You think you can take everything from me? Jaemin shouted, grabbing Seo-jun by the collar. My pride, my victories, and now my brother? Maybe he's not yours to keep, Seo-jun said calmly, though his fists clenched at his sides. I rushed forward, panicked. Stop, please, both of you. But they ignored me. Jaemin's fist swung, connecting with Seo-jun's jaw. The crack echoed through the gym. Seo-jun staggered back but didn't fall. Instead, he wiped the blood from his lip and smiled, sharp and dangerous. You hit like a man who's already lost. Jaemin roared and lunged again, but this time I threw myself between them. Enough! I screamed, tears spilling down my cheeks. Stop hurting each other. Stop hurting me. The words silenced them both. Jaemin's chest heaved, his eyes wild. Seo-jun's gaze softened, flicking from Jaemin to me. This isn't just about me and him anymore, I whispered, voice shaking. It's about me. My choice. Both of them stared at me, waiting. My heart pounded, my body trembling, but I knew there was no turning back. I love you, Jun, I said, my voice cracking. You're my brother. You've always protected me. But this, what I feel for him, I can't ignore it anymore. Jaemin's face fell, pain flashing across his features. So you're choosing him. Tears blurred my vision. I'm choosing myself. Seo-jun stepped forward then, his hand finding mine, firm and steady. And I'm choosing him too. Jaemin's expression hardened, rage and heartbreak twisting together. Then you're both dead to me. The words cut deeper than any blade. My knees nearly gave out, but Seojin's grip kept me standing. Jaemin turned and stormed out, the door slamming so hard it rattled the gym. I stood frozen, shaking, tears streaming down my face. What have I done? I whispered. Seojun pulled me into his arms, holding me tight against his chest. His voice was low, steady, almost tender. You finally told the truth, he said. And truth always comes with a price. I buried my face against him, sobbing quietly, knowing he was right. I had chosen love. But at what cost? Ending resolution. The gym was silent again, except for my uneven breaths and Seojin's steady heartbeat against my ear. I had lost my brother's trust, maybe forever. The bond that had defined my life was broken. But in Seojin's arms I felt something else, terrifying, dangerous, but real. I had chosen the risk of love. And as his lips brushed my hair, whispering promises I wasn't sure either of us could keep, I realized there was no going back. The war had just begun.